Hello. Well, I want to make a short video today just talking about something that I learned from Neville Goddard and hopefully will not take you as long as it took me to integrate into your life. Because I got into Neville back in 2014, and it took me many years to notice what he was saying and incorporate what he was saying with what some of the other great manifestation teachers were saying in a way that actually made me feel more relaxed about what I was doing in regards to feeling better on the inside to manifest a better life. And to boil it down into a very simple, straightforward, sentence or two, what that thing is, what took me a long time to learn, is that as soon as you start questioning how you are imagining and stressing yourself out about how you are imagining, you are probably doing yourself a disservice. You are probably doing yourself a disservice. If you go look at Neville, and I've spent a lot of time looking at Neville, I've edited a lot of books of his works. If you go right back to like At Your Command, which is his first book, he's talking about being in a state of receptivity basically through relaxation. Yet the way these ideas, most law of assumption concepts, are taught online is one where you kind of have to imagine your way somewhere. Imagine your way somewhere. And doing that lends itself a lot of the time inadvertently, emphasis on inadvertently, to not being relaxed. As I spoke about in my book, Relax More, Try Less, which is about Neville's approach and how to actually utilize it. And what I know much more now than I did when I wrote that book back in 2015 is that it's very difficult often to relax. It seems like it's easy to relax. It seems like it should be easy to use our imagination in a way that's conducive for what we want. But you're going to find, in all likelihood, and I hope this is not the case for you, but I've been at this for a while. It probably is, because it's the case for almost all of us. You're going to find it's a lot harder to relax than not to relax. And this work for most of us, certainly for myself, is accepting that and then figuring out how to work with your imagination, even though that's the case. And when you start working with your imagination as opposed to against it, paradoxically, that's when you'll start to relax more anyway. But what that looks like in reality, and like, again, this has taken me years to learn. And I think, to be honest, I think this takes basically everybody a while to learn. I don't think you can like learn a certain trick and expedite this process all that much. But if you're serious, if you're really into these ideas, if you're into Neville and wondering, why isn't this working better for me, which is the elephant in the room in this community, because nobody wants to say it. But the reality is Neville does not work well for most people sustainably. And if you want to actually, first of all, acknowledge it and then work with it, work through it, as opposed to deny it or shame yourself for not getting it to work and thinking, well, there's people online who have all these success stories. Why can't I get it to work when they can get it to work? If you want to get real about it, you probably want to acknowledge that maybe often, maybe some of the time, your body, which is part of your mind-body imaginative structure, how you feel emotionally, which is, again, directly linked to your imagination in some major way, if not entirely linked to it, how you feel imaginatively a lot of the time is probably not the way you want. In all likelihood, you have feelings of fear or anxiety or shame. And guess what? That doesn't mean you're practicing the law of assumption wrong. That just means you're human. And when you start acknowledging that more and realize that just because I have these passing uncomfortable feelings, which we call anxiety, right? Which we call shame, right? Once we start acknowledging that they're there and start working with them imaginatively, feeling into them, and there's many, many videos we've done about this, link will be in the description to some of those videos, start feeling the fear, the shame, the anxiety, and not look at it so adversarially as like this problem your imagination has to deal with, but imaginatively start working with it oof, that changes things. And I don't know how much it's going to speed up your law of assumption integration, but it's going to make it a heck of a lot easier. And that is what Neville has, or was always pointing to, in my opinion, starting in like 1939 with At Your Command. And the emphasis on relaxation and all techniques being figurative, just to get you to that relaxed, accepting place where it has already happened in the 4D. Or if you want to use more practical psychological language, it already feels like it's happened inwardly, so you know it is going to happen outwardly. If you start looking at it in that way, as opposed to being a technique, performance-based practice, the law of assumption, where if you don't imagine a certain way or do a certain technique to get your imagination to, manipulate a certain thing, you're doing it wrong. But if instead you look at it from a perspective of, I'm going to focus on being more relaxed and understanding of what's coming up within, and work with myself and assume I'm better by doing that, because you are better by doing that, then your life changes and this stuff gets easier. And it also just becomes a lot more fulfilling to do it. If you have questions or, are interested in more videos, links are in the description.